we are getting new video of the National Guard arriving in Washington, D.C. after President Trump called them in to help bring order to our nation's capital. Reaction is pouring in from the left surrounding President Trump's major crime crackdown. And they're seething, all because President Trump wants to keep Americans safe. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, Lisa Booth, Fox News political analyst, Kennedy, podcast host of Kennedy Saves the World, and Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Now, President Trump says the National Guard and temporary federal control of the D.C. police will help him to clean up D.C. streets once and for all. But for some reason, Democrats aren't happy.
What the president did this morning was political theater. His idea in federalizing the police force of D.C. ignores the reality. They are making dramatic progress in reducing violent crime in D.C.
Okay, so the question is, have there been crimes reported from Washington, D.C. over the last few days that are shocking for some people? There have been reports of a teenager firing gunshots close to the nation's Capitol building. We've had the reports of Big Balls. I don't know if he still works for Doge, but he was trying to help a woman who was being carjacked by a group of teenagers, and he got beaten up severely. And there are many stories like that just over the last few days. The question then is, all of those people who suffered those crimes, are they political theater? Now, and I want us to think together, to be honest. However, it is equally possible that these have been going on for a long time and nothing has been done about it. And now that the president is taking action, the simplest thing would have been to just say, well, the president is doing what he should be doing as the president of the United States. Kudos to him, and then move on. But Democrats just can't help themselves. And that's just the way it looks. They can't help themselves. They just have to jump on a bandwagon like they do and start saying stuff that doesn't make sense.
Cameras on everything that's going on, because this president is trying to lead us into what could be called a civil war.
I call it an abuse of power, right? The only reason this can...
Excuse me, how does stamping out crime in a city lead to civil war? Can you let me know in the chat? I'm trying to understand how that works. Making a city safe would lead to civil war. I remember statements that were made about how the communists in the Soviet Union basically took over things. They simply they sowed chaos into the society by releasing criminals and the insane to cause problems. And then they showed up to say, hey, I'm here to solve the problem. And whenever I hear Democrats react to things like this, it just makes me remember that account.
Happened to us in Washington, D.C. is because we are not a state. In no other city can the president take over the local police force. And I think that is ridiculous.
And more reactions pouring in on social media with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
All right, so let me talk about Washington, D.C. not being a state. It is by design that the seat of power should not be a state. And it was agreed upon. Look, I don't even live in the United States, and you guys say some of the most unhinged things about your own country. I don't live in the United States, but I know enough to say that I understand what the founding fathers were about when they said the seat of power cannot be a state by itself, because a state that hosts or is the headquarters of the most powerful person in the country would have undue privileges and cannot function as a state does. It was very clear. It's civics, I would say civics 101. But for people who don't recognize the historicity of some of the actions of the founding father, it's not surprising that they say stuff like that.
Is telling the president to, quote, get lost, and failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton calling him unhinged.
Okay, so according to Hakeem Jeffries, violent crime in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. So I want to ask this question out there. Now, if crime in Washington, D.C. is at, let's say, 100%, and then it drops by 30%, okay? that means you still have 70% crime going on. And for people who don't drive around with an entourage of Secret Service protection like Hakeem Jeffries, Hillary Clinton, and all the other guys who have been talking, and we've listened to them talk and tell everybody how Washington, D.C. is safe. They have security 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As members of Senate, as members of the government, they have security. So they're trying to tell you that you shouldn't believe your lying eyes. All the crimes that you see in your neighborhood, they're not real. This president is trying hard to make you feel unsafe. He's sowing chaos into your consciousness.
Meanwhile, anti-Trump protesters hit the streets, pushing back against the crime crackdown by singing.
Oh, this is cringe. All right, so I'll say this in the most charitable way I can muster, and I look, I really don't feel I don't feel upset about some of the weird behavior that I've been seeing over the last 12 years. You see these grown-ups coming out to oppose a president that wants to make them safe. People have said that the left wing, of course, the Democrat Party right now is just made up of far left people, are just a bunch of mentally ill people, because you can't believe these things with your faculties intact. Someone says, I'm going to make your city safe, and you're out there opposing him and trying to tell him that he's doing something wrong. The politicians are saying that he's grandstanding, while people on the streets are getting mugged, beaten, attacked, shot, killed. It's weird. Now, already the poll on the YouTube side shows people agree that when there's a crackdown on crime, cities are safer. 100%. Rational people believe that that is the way the world works. If you crack down on crime, it goes away. If you reward crime with cashless bail, crime goes up, because the people know that there's no consequence to their crimes.
The liberal media is joining the chorus as well.
Maybe it's not about crime. Maybe it's that he really enjoys using U.S. military force against American civilians on American soil and wants any excuse to do it anywhere he can.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper. I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter. We have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics. He's actually trying to give his base red meat to...
So it's, people like this who show up on TDS-BC, Trump Derangement Syndrome Broadcasting Corporation, they say the strangest things. So cracking down on crime is now a racial issue. Some of the individuals who have been arrested, who committed crimes, the juveniles who committed crimes, are not black. I think I saw a mugshot of someone who was connected to the shootings around the Capitol building, and they were white. So they say these things trying to make it all about race, and it isn't. So it's just weird that stuff like that gets played on air, and they say it with a straight face.
Get them off of the Epstein story, and it's on the backs of citizens in Washington, D.C.
All right, so he wants to go back to the Epstein story, but these were the guys who said that the Epstein story was a conspiracy theory. Interesting.
And the Washington Post is getting called out for quoting one D.C. resident who claimed the city was safe, but also requested to speak anonymously off the record.
So let's see this. This is a safe city, referring to Washington, D.C. But overhearing and witnessing gang threats and then watching the camera footage of the thuggery is disturbing. This is that cognitive dissonance that you keep running into when you meet people who support the policies of the left, and you try to ask them to explain how those policies make sense, and it's almost like they go into this spiral. The city is safe, but watching the crime footage of a safe city is disturbing. And one resident speaking on the condition of anonymity over concerns of personal safety. Oh yeah, city is safe. Imagine that. If I speak up about the crime that's going on in my city, I think a criminal in my safe city is going to attack me.
Over, quote, concerns of personal safety. Bill, you can't make this stuff up, but at the end of the day, it's tragic because these are people's lives that are getting lost.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to you. Good to be with you all, ladies. It's been a minute. You're an attorney. I think one of the interesting things about what Trump has done here is that he goes in and picks our former colleague, Judge Jeanine Pirro. And in the District of Washington, D.C., you have federal and some local jurisdiction, which is significant because you can plug people into the job and they can enact what you want to happen. Can't do that in every state, but in the
Yeah, which is why Washington, D.C. cannot be run like a state, because that is the official seat of the federal government. So it has to be run differently. That's one of the reasons. So you have individuals who aren't adults yet, juveniles committing crimes. And because of the soft on crime policies in Washington, D.C., they are let off back into the general population. They are a danger to everyone else and a danger to themselves, because if they continue down that path of crime, they are going to hurt themselves severely. And then you have Democrats running interference for criminals yet again. I keep saying in my videos, whenever Democrats defending crime comes up, I ask the question, why is it that Democrats seem to have this connection with defending criminals? They make the environment safer, not for law-abiding citizens, but for the criminals. Why? It's mind-blowing that keeps happening. And whenever we ask the question, no one can give a straight answer.